Good morning. Welcome back. As promised, we're going to make some ice cream bread. Now, this is so easy because there's literally just two ingredients. If you do it the right way, but if you do it Lynn's way, it's always going to be different. Okay. First of all, this is pumpkin ice cream from the grocery store. It only comes out during the fall. You can use any kind of ice cream to make bread with. Think about it. I mean, the basics are simple. What's an ice cream? Eggs, milk, fat, and sugar, right? That's what makes ice cream. All you're missing are your dry ingredients and your leavening agent. That's it. That would be flour and baking powder. True? True. So, well, we replace all the other stuff with just ice cream. Now, you want to take the ice cream out and let it set to where it's almost completely melted. You want 2 cups. So that's about right. It doesn't have to be melted all the way, but most of the way. And I've already started that one for you. Do not put it in the microwave and let it melt. Did you just see that? I just splashed ice cream everywhere. Good Lord, Lynn. Alright. And everybody loves pumpkin in the fall. Now, to make this easy on yourself, you can buy self-rising flour that you'll only use just to make this. I don't like self-rising flour myself. You pay more for it, number one, and you can't control the salt content. So, you make your own self-rising flour using just plain old all-purpose flour. We're going to use a cup of that and put it in our ice cream. Doesn't have to be a perfect cup. It can be overcut. That's fine. Alright. Cup of flour. This is baking powder. Yes, you can buy the Clabber Girl, which is what I normally buy in a great big can. And if you're not a big baker, you're not going to go through it all. So, but they do sell it in the little cans. This is the Rumford, and they do sell it in little cans. And it's usually above the flour on your baking aisle. Do that anyway. Alright. And we're going to want a teaspoon of that. A good heaping teaspoon of baking powder. And then we're going to want a pinch of salt. You always have to have salt. I know it makes no sense, but you have to have salt when you bake. 2 reasons. One, it brings out it intensifies the sugar, intensifies the sweet. And 2, it helps leaven the bread. There's a chemical reaction between the salt and the baking powder. Okay, you're going to stir this together gently. Don't want to overstir it. Remember, when you're working with flour, the more you work it, pancakes, biscuits, breads, the tougher it will be, and you don't want that. You want a good crumb and texture. So now what I'm going to do is, because I like pecans in mine, I'm going to add pecans to it. Just whatever looks good, a couple handfuls. And I tell you what, if you take the butter pecan ice cream and then smush up some bananas in it, and it makes the best banana bread. Okay, I have just taken some Pam and pammed our bread pan. So we're just going to put this in there. Make sure we got it all in there. And this is fun for the kids to make too. I know it doesn't look like much now, but it will. Trust me on that. It will. If I got it right, it will. Remember, not everything is always a home run. And I got fussed at for using my fingers the other day, which I hate to tell you this, but when we make meatballs in just a minute, yeah, you're going to want to see me use my hands, because that's the best way to get in and mush up a meatballs. You can do them without your hands, but it takes twice as long, and it's just not near as much fun. Okay, so we got as much of it as we can out of there. Pretty sure we got it all. So that's it. Just 2 ingredients. See how easy that is? Now this is going to go into a 350 degree oven for about 40 to 45 minutes. Depends on your oven. Mine will probably be 35 because it's really, really hot. Alright, so in that goes. Just set the timer. Because we'll get to talking and I'll forget. And then we have burning bread. I'm going to set it for 40, but it don't take that long. Alright, so now while we got that going on, get all this stuff out of the way. That's trash. Let's get all this put away, cleaned up, moved over, out of the way. So now we're going to make meatballs. And there's all different kinds of ways to make meatballs. This is going to be your basic put together meatball recipe. Okay? Then you take it and make it your own. Common sense. Alright? I'm going to do an Italian style meatball today. And it's very, very simple. The one problem I do have is I meant to grab we didn't have any at my grocery store ready. Ground pork. I usually use a pound of ground beef. This is ground chuck. And a pound of ground pork. If you can't eat pork, that's okay. Just use the beef. That's why I'm just using the beef. Veal is also really good in meatballs, but have you priced veal lately? Woohoo! So if you're not raising your own grass calf, the best thing to do would be to just bypass the veal. Sorry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some oil started, just a little, because you're going to have the meat making its own oil. So in a bowl, we've got our hamburger meat, ground chuck. When I was a kid, we used to call it hamburger meat. Now it's called all this other stuff. I don't know what. Okay, so normally I would use fresh, but I'm working with you guys today. So, garlic powder, fair amount. Dried Italian seasoning. Not that much. Woo. Okay. That, sprinkle of it. And then we're going to cut up an onion. Gosh darn it. I'm sorry, I'm running behind this morning, so I'm kind of rushing through everything. I know, I apologize for that. Hope you can see my board. We shouldn't have to go over cutting up an onion again, but we're going to. Practice makes perfect. Alright. So, got my onion. And I know I'd tell you how to do it. Don't cut it lengthways, but today we're going to cut it lengthways. And I know I'm using the wrong knife, but like I said, we're working under a time constraint here. And if you hear a buzzing in the background, no, we're not fixing to be descended on by a swarm of bees. My husband's cutting trees. Frank's cutting trees down. It's fall time to cut trees. And then you want to cut these into small pieces. If you want to add peppers to it, you can. I prefer to have my peppers in my sauce, so they have some integrity to the sauce. But this will add integrity to the sauce too. So, okay. Just rough chopping them. There we go. Got them rough chopped. Alright, so that's how easy that was. We got it seasoned. So now what we're going to do is we have to have two things. We have to have a binder and a filler. Your binder is going to be an egg. This is little Chicky Baby, my grandson's little banty hen. She lays the cutest little eggs. Isn't that cute? And they have good flavor to them too. So we're going to put an egg in there. That's our binder. Just one egg. That's going to be our binder. And it's going to be mixed with cheese. Now, most people tell you to use cracker crumbs, breadcrumbs, whatever. You can use breadcrumbs if you want to. If you do use breadcrumbs, always make sure if you buy them, buy plain. Do not buy the flavored ones. Because what you're getting is a can like this, about that much salt, and that much flavor in the can. Remember, anything flavored like that is always going to be all salt. If you buy low-fat stuff, remember, they substitute the fat with salt. So, you got to look at it that way too. But my favorite is oatmeal, just plain old oatmeal. I'm gonna use a handful of oatmeal, that's it. And this is where your clean hands come in. Mush up the egg first. And then you don't want to add any wets. I know some people add tomato paste to theirs, or ketchup, or you know, all different kinds of sauces. You know, anything tomatoey based to it. We're trying to alleviate the moisture and get them to hold together, not, you know, fall apart. Oatmeal. I've done so many different ways, and oatmeal has always been my favorite. I use oatmeal in my meatloaf too. It's the best. It is the best. Now I'm going to add in, I've got a little bit of Parmesan, grated Parmesan left. So we're going to throw that in there too. Why not? Why not? Why not? My common sense tells me I'm going to add cheese to these meatballs. You can add mushrooms to them. You can add peppers to them. This is just your basic garlic, onions, meat, an egg, and oatmeal. Not a lot. You don't want it to taste like oatmeal. You want it to taste like Alright, and a little bit of black pepper. I'm not going to add any salt because I'm going to probably be putting salt in the sauce, number one. And number two, I'm using Parmesan, which is a salty cheese. I'm not going to add pepper either because I can't open it. Throw some black pepper in there. If you want to add pepperoncinis, the little red pepper flakes, that would be good too. Excuse me. Black pepper up my nose. That, and it's cotton season. All the farmers are bringing in their cotton, and that cotton gets in the air. That's worse than ragweed or any other allergen you can think of. Okay, so it should pull out like that. You should be able to do that. Okay, now, depending on how big you want your meatballs, I like mine about like that. You know, just roll them in your hand, just like that. Don't worry about what's in them. And by now your oil should be hot. And what we're going to do is we're going to build the sauce right in with the meatballs once the meatballs are cooked. You're going to want to have them on a low to medium heat for about 5 to 10 minutes on each side, depending on the size of your meatballs. I like mine to be around the size of a golf ball, ping pong ball size. That's what I like. Are they perfect and exact? No, they're meatballs. This, again, is another good way to get the kids in the kitchen. Let the kids form the meatballs. Don't let them put them in the oil because it could splash back on them if they just throw them in. But it's a great way to get the kids involved. Let them make the meatballs and put them on a plate, and then you can put them in the skillet. I know I got dishes in the sink. I usually put them away before y'all come. But it's, like I said, I'm running under an extreme time crunch. That's why I keep looking at the clock. Well, so much for fall in Central Texas. It's going to be in the upper 90s again all next week. Towards the end of September. So there you go. That's how that works. And it's going to rain again, I can tell you right now, because the sages are blooming. We're going to get more big rain. I don't know when. Probably in about a week or so. They usually bloom about a week or so before it rains. And they have been in full bloom. They're going out now, so that means it should be coming. Alright. Don't waste any of it. I don't care if you say, well, that's too small. What I got left's too small to make a meatball. No, it ain't. Can it go in your fist? Then it's big enough to be a meatball. That'll be the one for the dog. Alright. Get all the raw meat off my hands. Okay. So then what we're going to do is we're going to let these cook up. I'm going to increase the heat on them a little bit. Let these cook up a little bit. And then we'll be right back to make the sauce. Alright, our meatballs are done. How can you tell? They move. They will stick as long as they're still raw meat cooking. Once they're cooked, they'll release themselves. So they're done. That's not as much grease as it looks like. Trust me. It's okay. Alright, so now I'm going to make a quick sauce. This is actually roasted garlic pizza sauce. That's going to be the base of our sauce. But we can do better. We can do better. We can do better. Now I'm turning down the low so we don't burn it. Now I'm going to add in a can of Italian-style diced tomatoes. What if I don't have Italian-style diced tomatoes? All I have is plain diced tomatoes. We'll use plain diced tomatoes and Italian seasoning. That's the common sense. Alright? Move that like that. I know it's just piled up on top. That's okay. We're going to cut up some mushrooms because we love mushrooms and they're so good for you. Alright. Who is humid today? I tell you what. I'm just rough chopping them up. Cut the stems off. Don't throw those stems away. Those stems taste just fine. Ain't nothing wrong with them. You never wash mushrooms. You wipe them off, but you don't wash them. They're fungus. They're porous. A fungus is among us. Now that's a spicy meatball. That one, I break it up with my hands. Throw those in there. Not enough. So we're going to throw more in there. These are just white buttons. I normally prefer Baby Bellas, but I didn't have Baby Bellas. So my common sense says, what have I got? Oh, I've got these. Okay, well, I'll use these. I'm telling you what, people. God, it's humid. Woo! Woo! Hot flashy, hot flashy, hot flashy. That knife don't put out near enough heat. Well, I don't either. Or near enough cold. Okay. That's good. I'm going to add a bell pepper or two. Because there's nothing like burping. Here's a hint. I should have done this before. Let me see what this one is. That's a 3. Okay. Have you ever bought a bell pepper and it's just full of seeds? And you got that big old seed thing and you don't want that big old seed thing? And then you buy another pepper and you cut into it. There's hardly any seeds, hardly any membrane. And it's just a lot of good pepper. Here's why. See, they're all going to have some seed. But, okay. See how there's 4 dimples on the bottom? Can you see that? 4 dimples? That's a boy pepper. That's a male. They don't have as much seed because we all know that women are the ones with the seed we reproduce. This is a female. It's got 2, sometimes 3. It'll have 2 or 3 dimples on a female, more seed. 4 dimples, no seed, or little seed. That's all the seed that was in there. That's it. And only 1 piece of membrane. So that ain't bad at all. That ain't bad at all. And if you don't want to use that membrane, some people don't like it. It does. It can have a bitter taste if it's an old pepper. These are not old peppers because they came straight out of my garden. And I'm just going to put 1 pepper in here because I love peppers, but they don't like me. I will burp these all night long, and that's not attractive, trust me. Alright. Seeds and stems. No matter. Get it all in there. Alright. But it gives it a nice little flavor. Next, I'm going to add some minced garlic. Because, we like garlic. Just a forkful, not a lot. You don't need a lot. I can't afford minced garlic. Then use garlic powder. You can afford minced garlic when it comes from the dollar store. If you can't afford $1, we need to talk about your kitchen management. Alright. Now I'm looking at this and looking at it, and the sauce is going to just bake right in there with the... all that's going to mix in together. Now, if I had some, I'd throw in maybe some frozen spinach or a drained off can of spinach. I don't like canned vegetables, but if that's what you've got, you could use that. You could put spinach in there. You could put zucchini in there. I don't know if I have a zucchini. If I do, I'm going to put some zucchini in there. And I do. I do. Again, straight out of the garden, so I know it's good and clean and pretty. I'm going to end up hitting myself on that. I'm going to slice it like this, and then like that. Chunky pieces. It's not an exact science, it's a sauce. It's a rustic sauce. This is just a very rustic sauce. And when you do something very rustically, you want the big chunks, just like it came off the farmer. You know, if you're at a farm in Tuscany, you know, you want it like that. And we're going to throw in a little wine, because why not? All I have is white, but right now open, so we'll do that, because that's a whole nother thing in itself if you want to watch me open a bottle of wine. You like laughing? You'll laugh at that. Alright, so now, isn't that pretty? Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? That is so pretty. So now what we're going to do is, we're going to put the lid on it, put it on low, and just let it sit and make marriage. That's just going to sit and simmer till the veggies are tender, and then it's done. That's it. And then now, just cook up a pot of your favorite pasta. You know, I will probably do some, with this, I probably use rotini. And the reason is I love rotini. Those are the spiral ones, because the sauce gets all up in there, and then we're going to add more cheese when it's done, and, you know, to the sauce, we're going to add more Parmesan. I'm checking our little bread. Another thing about, because I think we're going to have a learning moment right now. On your baking powder, it has a date. It has a date. Every year about this time, I buy a fresh thing of baking powder. I don't care if this is full, I'm going to buy a brand new one. It's cheap. It's like $1. You know, it's really cheap. I'm going to buy a new one because it does not have a good shelf life. Baking powder loses its ability to cause things to rise over time. So, and I'm looking at my bread and thinking that's where we've got a problem. And I did something I fuss at y'all about doing. I opened it up to look instead of going this way. Every time you open the oven to check on something, you're letting the heat out, so then the heat has to build back up and your cooking time expands. Just remember that. And that goes to the chickens. We're done with that. We're done with that. We're done with this. That'll go to the chickens. My glasses on. When the zucchini starts to turn a little clear, you know it's done. Just right. Perfect. Which doesn't take that long, really. So, well, that's my husband's phone. Let me get a skewer, and we're going to check the bread, see where we're at on that. Shut up, I got company. Thank you very much. Oh, I said it's going to get a skewer. I know, you get my big head right in your face. And a thing of bamboo skewers is really cheap too. It's like $1.50 or something for a big bag of them. A lot of people use toothpicks. Well, you have a really good chance of burning yourself, number one, or losing the toothpick in it, number two. The skewer is big, long, bamboo, works the same way. Alright, so let's see where we're at. We're done. We're done. Okay. So, okay, hang on just a second. Now, this is what I was talking about. This is what I was talking about. Put it back there. Put it back there. See how it didn't rise very high? That makes me sad. That makes me sad. It'll still taste good. It smells amazing. But my baking powder is old. See, I need a new baking powder. But that I can make work because, you know what we're going to do with it? We're going to let it cool right now. We'll let it sit there and cool a minute. And then I'm going to make up a quick little glaze for the top of it. Alright, so we've got our bread on our bread rack, and I put a paper towel under it. And the reason I put the paper towel under it is because we're going to glaze it, so it's all going to drip off. This way it doesn't drip off all over your counter, and all you have to do is throw the paper towel away instead of scrubbing to get the sugar off. Alright, so we're going to take a spoon. This is my powdered sugar. Again, if you don't have powdered sugar, you can make your own. It's not that hard. Figure it out. And you just eyeball it, what you think you need. And you could use milk and vanilla. But I have some hazelnut creamer here, which I think will go very well. It's very folly. I'm going to start with just a tiny bit. Remember, you can always add to, you can never take away. And then you just start stirring it in until you get a drizzle. So you get it the consistency that you want. If you want it to be an icing, you want it thick. If you want it to be a drizzle, like we're going to do, you want it real thin, so you can drizzle over it. What's that? I don't like the looks of that. Who knows? Who knows around here? Everything is a surprise. There. Put my glasses on because there's something else in there. What is that? Okay, that is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for just a drizzle like that. Now, if I want it a little thicker now, I can add more sugar, but I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to take it and do this. Put it on the end of the spoon and then just go back and forth. You don't want to cover it. Just want to go back and forth. If you're covering it, it's completely iced. But what you want is a pretty presentation, number one, and a little bite of this extra sweetness in every bite. Now it's still warm when I put the glaze on, which is good because now that will crust. It's like putting it on in the oven, and it'll give it a harder crust, better, and then the crumb will be real tender inside. I can already tell that. So anyway, there is our pumpkin ice cream bread. We'll make some more. I'll get some new baking powder. We'll make some more. It's 2 cups of almost completely melted ice cream. Don't let it melt all the way. You want it still to have some little bit of blob to it. And 1.5 cups of self-rising flour, or about 1.25 cups of regular flour, a heaping teaspoon or 2, depending on the age. If I'd have used 2 teaspoons, we would have had a bigger rise on this. A baking powder and a pinch of salt. That's it. So that's this one. This one, there's our dessert, and here's our meal. Looky there. Homemade meatballs with a quick homemade sauce. Can't get much better than that. If you like what you see today, hit like and subscribe and share below. Let's get this going. I know we got good food. I know we cook well together, so let's get it going. Get it around to everybody. Share it with everybody. The drizzle, powdered sugar, milk, and vanilla, or a flavored creamer. That's all you got to do. It's done. This is going to work with me today. And this is dinner tonight. So I've got dinner ready. I've got that done. The whole thing was done in about 30 minutes. We did all of it together in about 30 minutes. Hope y'all have a good weekend. I'll see you next week. Get it on the table.